The Bible is in no way inerrant. It is rife with errors and contradictions, but you can still believe it. Buckle up. This one's going to be interesting. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. Let's start with the errors. There are a couple of different kinds of errors. One of them is just like scientific errors. So at the beginning of the Bible, in the beginning of the creation story, it talks about the earth being covered with a clear dome called a firmament. And that obviously isn't the case, though that is how the people understood the earth to be at that time. They also thought that the earth was flat. The earth is not flat. In the story of Noah, the earth is covered with a flood, but Noah collects a bunch of animals to repopulate the earth after. We'll get to the contradiction in the animals story, but there is a basic problem in that amount of animals, that size of a ship, is in no way able to have enough genetic diversity to repopulate the earth. There is a part where it says, of course, the earth, the universe was not created in 6 days. The universe is 13.5 billion years old. It talks about the earth's foundations. The foundations, they thought that flat earth was supported by something kind of like a house is, but we all know that's not how the earth is. It is not flat. It is not supported by foundations. There's a lot of these sort of scientific errors in the Bible. And then there are just errors in the translations into other languages. Like you can find verses that are not in there in later, more recent translations than were there in the past, because more things have been discovered. And sort of as you go from the newest manuscripts back, you start saying, oh wait, before this year, this verse or this passage wasn't even in there. And so some of them are removed, some of them are grayed out. There's the longer ending of Mark. That's almost always printed in Bibles. It's the end of the book of Mark, but it's normally bracketed or grayed out or asterisked to say, hey, this wasn't in the earliest translations the earliest copies of the Bible that we have. The Greek in the book of Revelation is like notoriously ungrammatical, all sorts of grammar errors in that. And then there are verses that just we are so sure that they should not be in the Bible that when you get like the NRSVUE, it's just not in there. Like Matthew chapter 17, it goes in Matthew chapter 17, you'll see Matthew 17 verse 20, and then verse 22. 21's not even in there. And a lot of these, it looks like at some point people who were copying the Bible were trying to make the different stories that are the same stories sort of agree with each other. But there's a lot of them. Matthew 18:11, Mark 7:16, Mark 11:26. Like there's a long list and you can go through them. And then there's just weird errors of like talking in the Bible. Like, for example, in Matthew chapter 27, there's a quote, and it says that like that quote is from Jeremiah, but it's actually not from Jeremiah. That quote is from Zechariah. There's a moment in Matthew chapter 1 where it says there's 14 generations from Abraham to David, but you look, there's only 13. Oh, also interesting, Romans chapter 3, verse 10 through 18, Paul just like puts together all kinds of quotes from the Old Testament. He like changes phrases, he misattributes them. It's just kind of a whole mess there. And then there's all kinds of internal contradictions. So you find, like in 1 Samuel, there's a census that David takes. I think it's 1 Samuel, 1st or 2nd. And that census, it says in 1 Samuel or 2 Samuel, that the Lord inspires the census. Then in 1 Chronicles or 2 Chronicles, can't remember, it says, it's talking about the same census, and it says that Satan inspired the census. And Satan isn't like the devil with horns and a pitchfork. It's like a role. But either way, the Lord and Satan can't be the same person. Then there's a story of Noah and the ark. In chapter 6, it's 2 of every kind of animal. And in chapter 7, it's 7 pairs of clean animals and 1 pair of unclean animals. Then there is the story of David and Goliath, right? In 1 Samuel chapter 17, David kills Goliath. That's the version that we were taught in Sunday school. And in 1 Samuel 21, there's a guy named Elhanan who kills Goliath. Okay, so there's just a lot of internal contradictions in the text itself. And my goal isn't to make you feel like the Bible isn't reliable. Like, I'm a pastor after all, but it isn't reliable in the 21st century literalistic way, with the way that we understand the historical values that we have about history, getting every fact right, when the ancient historical value is to tell the truth using the facts of a situation. So it's not reliable in that sense, but it is something that you can believe and something that can be very beneficial to you if you take it in the right way. And there's really two ways that I think it's important to view the Bible and find meaning there. The first one is to approach it as finding truth in it that is like finding truth in poetry, like finding this deeper truth that exists in between the words. And I'm not saying that the entire Bible is metaphorical. I'm saying that the deepest meanings exist below the surface. Like, it doesn't matter the number of fighting men in Israel, 800,000 versus 1.1 million in another place. That stuff doesn't matter. What matters, what has informed some of the most wonderful things, and we'll be honest, some of the worst things in history, is the stuff that is below the surface. There's another way too. And this may be, I think, the most helpful way to see the Bible. It's like when you hear people's story, right? When you ask people to tell you their story of faith or their story of love, and as you listen to their story, it helps you process and understand your own, right? Listening to their journey, which is I'm contractually obligated to use as a person on social media, helps you understand your own journey. And in one way, the Bible is really just a collection of stories of people's journey through life and in spirituality. Some of those are really great and healthy times. Some of them are not. And the Bible doesn't hold back on showing the dysfunction of individuals. It doesn't hold back on showing the worst parts of humanity. And that's really helpful because we experience all of that stuff. And as you read it, if you read it like I'm reading the spiritual journeys and the life journeys of all of these people, all of a sudden, you can find your own meaning. It can help you process your own life and really be a positive force in your life.